My name is Clinton Patton Sr., and I'm the founder of the Ashley Renee Hamilton Foundation. The organization was started because my sister was murdered as a result of domestic violence in 2007. Well, it started out as August the 10th, 2007. I was sitting in the parking lot of my job at the time. I had just finished playing basketball, and so I received a phone call, and it was my sister. She called and she said, "Hey, Big Clint, how you doing? Or what you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm sitting in the parking lot," and I was talking about how I was killing them on the court and stuff like that, and she was laughing. And I said, "Well, what's on your mind? What you got going on?" And she was like, "Well, I want to go back to school, and I'm sitting in the house, and I'm gonna be on MySpace." I mean, you remember MySpace at the time, whatever. So I was like, "Okay, cool." And I said, "Well, what you gonna major in?" She said, "Well, I'm majoring in psychology." And I kind of smirked a little bit, and I said, "Well, look, you want to be just like your big brother." And she started laughing. So as we were talking, she said, "Y'all don't know what that boy do to me." And I was like, "What do you mean? What's he doing to you?" And our conversation, we kind of kept talking. She kind of blew it off, and then she said, "I don't know why that boy got that gun. I'm scared of that gun." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about?" I said, "Did he put it on you? Did he threaten you with it? How you know he got a gun?" And she said, "No, that boy ain't crazy." Then I said, "Well, I'll come down there and handle it." You know, I used a couple of cuss words and stuff like that, but I was serious as a heart attack. So I found myself in the parking lot thinking about how I was gonna get to Jackson, Mississippi and get back to work on time. But we said our goodbyes or whatever, and I told her to call me later, and then I went in to work. So August the 11th, I went to Texas because my cousin that graduated, she had a bachelor's in psychology. How ironic. Um, we were talking about how her son and my son, you know, looked alike, and looked like that could be her son as well. So she called us around 6 o'clock that evening, and I asked her what she was doing. She said she had just got off work and she was tired. And I said, "Okay, well, you know, we were constantly talking, and then after that, she said, "Well, I'm gonna go to sleep." And I said, "Well, call me when you get up." So we hung the phone up, went to the graduation, and came back. I was at my father's house at the time, and I woke up, and when I woke up, I heard like wailing. It was like you can just tell that something was wrong. I just didn't know what. So when I walked in my father's living room, my sister's mother, we had the same dad. My sister's mother stated, "That boy killed your sister." And I was like, "What do you mean killed my sister?" She said, "He killed your sister." And so I called my sister's phone, and I got a voicemail. I called it again. I sent a text message, and I didn't get an answer. And it was still like not real, still like that it couldn't have happened. And I mean, I was like, well, she's not in the hospital. So we ended up going to Mississippi. And after I got there, they started to tell me about the things that she was going through. She had been stalked. He had been calling her out of her name. He had been threatening her. He had been physical with her on several occasions. There were at least 3 or 4 police reports. In fact, on that Thursday, which would have been the 11th, she had to go to court because he had jumped on her outside of a gas station. And unfortunately, no one said nothing, and she didn't tell me anything about the relationship that she was in. She didn't tell me that it was violent. She understood how I felt about it. She knew that it would have. She told several people that she didn't want to tell me because she felt that I would get in some trouble, and sometimes that's not the case. Then once I found out that one of her friends, you know how people get sometimes when they feel like they're helping you by telling you what your partner is doing. If you know that you witnessed this person be violent towards a person, why would you call them to tell them that the person is doing anything? So one of her quote unquote associates called my sister that night and told her that her child's father was in the club with his first baby mom. And so my sister ended up driving down there. and they told me that they told me that my sister, there was an altercation, or she said something to him, and she walked out the club and drove off and drove back from Hollandale, Mississippi to Jackson. So after she drove off, then he drove off behind her. And so once she made it home, she went in, got out of all her clothes, was getting ready to get in the bed, and then he came up behind her. He came into the yard and went in and kicked the door and then went in there and shot her in her head. And he then proceeded he was sitting in the car when the police found him. So to fast forward, in 2009, he called to speak to me on the phone. And the first thing he said was, I wish I would have never cheated on her. See, one thing about abusive people, and especially with men, is that when they get caught cheating, it makes them more volatile, because it's about control. And so every time that my sister would catch him cheating, and I had really no idea, he would fight her physically, call out her name. And even though she was fighting back, people felt like she was a fighter and stuff like that, but that's not how life should be in no way, shape, or form. And there was a lot of emotional abuse, a lot of the belittling and condescending and making her feel like no one else will warn her, or making her afraid to get help, making her afraid to speak out about the things that was going on. And not to mention that she had 2 kids to take care of. And when in those situations, it's hard to be a mom when you are being abused in that manner, because you can't be 100% to take care of your kids. Sometimes you ignore their needs, you ignore your needs. It's tough.